It is Wednesday, July 23rd, and we have hit a nerve. The Trump administration hitting a nerve. The media, writ large, losing their minds over this Obama scandal. The worst show on television, The View, lost it, losing it. The anchors melting down today after DNI Tulsi Gabbard's press conference. They know Obama is caught red-handed. This is too good. And CNN abruptly cutting the live feed during Tulsi's press conference. You can't make this up. This is how it's always been, though, with Barack Obama. No criticism allowed, never. It's been like this for 15 years. Wait till you see this, though. CNN's disgraceful behavior, and more stories as well from around the country, including a crazy bombshell of an admission about why the Biden administration allowed so many people into this country.
I cannot even express how stunning this is. The President of the United States was engaged in a conspiracy. That's the allegation. I'm so disappointed in Barack Obama. He puts himself up there as a scandal-free president. Now, look how great it was for 8 years. That guy run the screen, he was lying to us. And he was part of concocting a conspiracy to deceive the American people. It doesn't get any worse than that. And how many times did I get a lecture from the Democrats about nobody's above the law, nobody's above the law? They all said it. They drove it home every time. And we'll see where they are now. They're going to run for the hills. And Jonathan Turley is right. He is absolutely right. Where is the intellectual curiosity? Where are they going to be in terms of returning their Pulitzer Prizes and all the awards that they won and patting themselves on the back on how great they were on getting Donald Trump? They were all lying to us, and they got snookered, and they should be held accountable. And I want to see some people in handcuffs. They have to be held accountable, or it'll happen again.
So for years, it's been unacceptable to talk negatively about Barack Obama. Ask anyone in D.C. You become persona non grata if you dare mention Obama in a negative way, whether you do it at a cocktail party or a mainstream interview or anything like that. You're instantly shut down, never invited back. So what we're seeing this week is pretty remarkable. Corporate media is having this visceral reaction to the breaking news, this Russia hoax conspiracy. How it turns out, all of it allegedly orchestrated, ordered allegedly by then President Obama. Mainstream media doing everything they can to avoid covering this, even talking about Epstein. They're all now focusing their attention on Epstein just to not talk about Obama. We have the DNI, folks, the Director of National Intelligence, our country's intel chief, the highest ranking intelligence officer, coming out at the White House press conference this morning, unveiling new declassified documents showing all of this. Ordered, she says, by Obama, and the media actively covering it up. You can't make this up. CNN cutting away as Tulsi begins exposing how far Obama went to orchestrate this, muting her microphone. Watch.
Multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th...
We've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been a multi-day effort, not only with public statements like this, but release of documents, to attempt to back up the quite extreme allegation that President Obama is guilty of treason and that he worked in some sort of conspiracy with Hillary Clinton, etc., in the assessment by the intelligence community at the time that Russia interfered in the...
So they cut Tulsi's mic mid-sentence and go on to put words in her mouth. They won't even let their audience hear what the White House has to say. It's unbelievable. Well, thank the Lord for independent media. Here's what Tulsi actually said. Roll the tape.
Community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump. On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the President Obama. It directed senior intelligence community agency heads and created an intelligence community assessment limited to just 5 analysts using one principal drafter. This is not something that occurs in the normal path of producing an intelligence community assessment that reflects the views across the intelligence community.
This morning's press conference was a ruckus of a presser. Tulsi declassifying and releasing even more documents, and we're hearing she's dripping these documents out. Apparently, she has multiple tranches in the process of being released, of being declassified, going through the declassification process. So this will continue for weeks, apparently. And if you think CNN was bad, listen to what the ladies on The View had to say, losing their minds, going to bat for their Lord and Savior, Barack Hussein Obama, even calling, get this, calling for President Obama to be protected by presidential immunity. Yes, saying even though Obama did this, he's safe, he's covered, isn't he? Because of presidential immunity. The same thing they said Trump shouldn't be covered under. Watch.
A sitting president just accused a former president of treason. Now, do people realize how serious an allegation this is? And for me, didn't the Supreme Court, under the guidance of this president, say that presidents have immunity? So that would mean that nothing Obama did, because you didn't say no, that only you have immunity. You said presidents. So this means you have no right to try to take him to court because he did what he did as president. So how does that work? Is it only you who is clear, or are they all clear? In which case, President Biden might be, kicking some new stuff up to you too. Because if you say nobody has immunity, or everybody, you have to decide which way you're going.
Let me know what you think about this. Do you think we're going to see some actual arrests, real accountability, or will these people just skate by like always? From what we're understanding, there will be charges. Some of these people will be charged criminally. On some of these people, that's what we're hearing at least. Will they really charge President Obama? I don't know. I have doubts. I find it hard to believe, just because of how hard it would be to secure a conviction in D.C. for President Obama. But I do think they're going forward with this. They want some scalps collected. In another story, the House Committee on Homeland Security continuing their investigation into the role NGOs played in the Biden administration's unprecedented border crisis. During their hearings last week, one of the key witnesses, a woman named Allie Hopper, testifying that these immigration-focused NGOs have basically been hijacked by criminal networks, and that she has key insights into the 300,000 children that went missing, testifying that during the Biden administration, the DHS decided to set up a hotline to try and help these children, these 300,000 children, that when they were crossing, when unaccompanied minors would cross the border, they would give out a phone number explaining to the child, if you're in trouble, call this phone number, like you'd hope our DHS would do, right? Well, she said this hotline blew up. The DHS knew how many kids were in trouble and were basically doing nothing. They weren't shutting it down, saying 65,000 calls from these kids went unanswered. 65,000 calls coming into the hotline for help, never picked up the phone. This is criminal. This is what we need accountability for. Watch.
This is what the American people voted for because they saw 4 years of the carnage that these open border policies plagued on the United States. And we're talking about the NGOs that they used as middlemen to carry out their operations, like the Catholic charities they used to facilitate, normalize, and accelerate illegal immigration into this country. Ms. Hopper, you've worked closely with trafficking victims and survivors. I'd like to explore the role that the NGOs have played in enabling the trafficking and exploitation of unaccompanied alien children. Under the last administration, what safeguards were put in place to protect vulnerable unaccompanied children?
I previously discussed the post-placement welfare checks, which consisted of 2 phone calls. Again, if the sponsor didn't answer, the case was no longer followed up on. But there was also a notice of concern hotline where people could report concerns about the unaccompanied child's safety. But what this administration found was from August 2023 to January of 2025, 65,000 calls went unanswered. Those calls spanned from, complaints about stale bread all the way to being abused, to one case where a child's call was reporting that grown men were coming into his room at night and they were touching him. Nothing happened with that call. That call went unanswered until this administration took office, went through those 65,000 calls, made follow-ups, conducted a welfare check, and now that child has been rescued and that sponsor has been arrested. These are the safeguards that were put in place, but accountability and oversight was not had.
Craziest part of all this, though, the media making it out like Dems are the responsible party. They cover all this up. Turn on any mainstream news program and all they're talking about is why Trump won't release the Epstein files. It's just wild. The border crisis perpetuated by the Dem party purposely. They flooded as many people into this country as possible. We know they did it on purpose because we have the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Look at what happened under Biden. We all knew it wasn't Joe Biden, right? He had no clue what was happening. It was the party leaders, someone in positions of responsibility still believed probably, this is the best way to hold on to power. That's the most innocent version of why they would have done this. And if you don't believe that, here's Democrat Yvette Clarke admitting it live on tape, saying she needs more of these people in her district, more migrants. She says, for redistricting purposes. Those aren't my words. She said this. Watch.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
All I can say is thank the Lord for Donald Trump. We really do need Congress to now pass a law to prevent this in the future, though. A border bill to make, for example, catch and release illegal so that the next administration can't come in and just undo all the progress Trump's making at the border. I mean, that's what needs to happen next. Let me know what you think. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.